Quick tutorial to show you how to create particles using some punctuation. So I'm already here in my After Effects interface here. I'm going to create a new composition. Create whatever size you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and work with an HDTV 1080-2997, and I'm just going to set this up with a 5-second timeline. I'm going to click OK. So here within my composition, I'm going to create some text characters. So I'm going to grab my text tool. I'm going to go over to my character palette. I'm just going to use Helvetica New Regular. I've got my point size set to about, or pixel size set to about 18. And I do have this really bright kind of lime green. In my mind, I'm kind of making these look like fireflies or something like that. So I'm just going to click somewhere in the center of the screen. And I'm going to use a special character. It's called a bullet point. And you do that by pressing Option and the number 8. And I'm just going to hit that over and over and over again until I've got a pretty significant number of them there on my screen. Now, I need even more than this, but I want to make this a little bit easier on me. So I'm going to press Command A to select all. I'm going to press Command and the letter C to copy them. And then I'm just going to tap the right arrow on my keyboard one time to move my cursor to the end. And now I can hit Command V and just keep hitting that until I've pretty much filled the whole screen up with those. You can put as many or as few as you want. The more you put, the more particles you're going to have. The fewer you put, the smaller number of particles you're going to have. So let's go over here to our timeline and our layers down here. I'm going to twirl that text layer down. And here to the right of the word text, I can go over to Animate. And I'm going to turn on this opportunity here called Enable Per Character 3D. And what that's going to let me do is I move each of those characters around. It's not going to move just in X and Y space. It will also move in Z space. I'm going to turn that on. So now things look really kind of weird, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. No big deal there. So then we're going to go back to Animate, and we're going to choose Position, and we're going to set Position to 500 for each of the 3 variables. Sorry, you can't see that. Not 5,000, 500. There we go. So that's going to move them all down to the right and towards me. You really can't see that it's doing all that because we're in 3D space, but that's okay. So the next thing we're going to do is, when we added that, it creates an animator right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to look here to the right of the words that say Animator 1, and we're going to go over to Add, and we're going to go to Selector, and we're going to choose Wiggly. This is like adding a wiggler or using the expression wiggle. Same kind of thing. It's just going to vary those variables there, not valuables. So now when I preview this, if I deselect and I preview this, these are going to just move around like crazy. They're going to be kind of almost like some weird green static on the screen. So just a little bit of an explanation of what's happening here. We created this row of little periods or little dots, bullet points precisely, and we enabled Per Character 3D, which will allow us to move them, animate them, rotate them, whatever, in all 3 dimensions. Then we added a position animator to it, and we set the position values for X, Y, and Z to 500. And then we went back to that animator and we added a wiggly selector. So let's take a look over here. They're moving way too fast. I just wanted to give you just a second here for the RAM preview to generate so you can see how ridiculously fast they're moving. And they're just, it's like a giant swarm of green gnats, and that isn't very nice, nor is it very romantic. So what I can do is I can twirl down underneath Animator 1, I can twirl down the wiggly selector right there. And then I can come down and I can look for this variable right here that says wiggles per second. And right at this moment, it's set to 2.0. Well, if we change that to 0.2, enter, we're going to drastically slow them down. And now they're going to move in a much more pleasing way and look more like maybe fireflies that we would see on a beautiful summer night. Now, while it's doing the RAM preview there are a lot of other things down here that you can animate. You can control your maximum, minimum amount, correlation, temporal phase. All those things are going to have some effect on them. I don't really want to get into all of that stuff right here in this little tutorial because I wanted to keep it really simple. But it actually works really well to create that illusion. Before I ever had a particle generator plugin, I would use this technique to create like little dots and specks of dust in my composition. If I had a logo or something sitting there and I had the illusion of the spotlight shining through it, I tried to use these to create the illusion of some particles or some dust just by making them black and maybe putting a little bit of a vignette around them or a mask or something like that. So anyway, now we've got these cool little fireflies flying around. I did just want to show you that if you had any interest in it, you could also go back to your animator and underneath the range selector, not the range selector, let me see, where it is. Underneath position, if we wanted them to start off spread apart and then we wanted them to come together, we actually could keyframe that. So I'm going to put my current time indicator at the 3-second mark. I'm going to click the stopwatch for position. I'm going to move all the way to the end of my timeline, and I'm going to change all 3 of those variables back to 0, and now they're going to come back together in a line. So we're going to go from crazy fireflies flying around all over the place to fireflies that are going to swarm together and form a line, a very orderly line. So again, you can keyframe a lot of these different variables and make them do some very interesting, very, very cool things. So hopefully that will help you out.